She realized something was wrong when the zipper grazed her back and the silk felt like it had been personally offended by her existence. 3 days before her wedding, a bride discovered that her custom designer gown, the one she'd saved for, dreamed about, cried over, had been swapped for a flimsy synthetic knockoff that probably came folded in a suspicious plastic bag. And the person who did it? Her maid of honor. Her lifelong best friend. Her self-declared soulmate. My friends, this is Scarlet Veil. And today, I'm telling you a story that still makes my skin crawl. Welcome to the channel Lying Whispers. If you're into stories where loyalty unravels faster than cheap stitching, where friendship masks jealousy, and where we dissect the psychology behind dramatic betrayals with just the right amount of sass, you're home. Before we dive in, subscribe, tap that like button with confidence, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and share this with that friend who says, "My bestie would never." Let's test that theory. Now grab a coffee or whatever dramatic beverage fuels your inner detective and stay with me until the end. Because this one, it's layered. The bride, we'll call her Natalie, had known her best friend, Brooke, since middle school. They survived awkward hair phases, failed crushes, family drama, and at least one shared notebook full of secrets that could ruin reputations. They were inseparable, or at least that's what Natalie believed. When Natalie got engaged to Ethan, Brooke cried harder than anyone in the room. At the time, it looked sweet. In hindsight, it looked territorial. The wedding planning began. Elegant, intimate, expensive without being obnoxious. Brooke didn't wait to be asked to be maid of honor. "Oh, please, obviously that's me," she laughed. Obviously. Because time served equals loyalty, right? Careful, my friends. Longevity does not equal purity. Now, let's talk about the dress. Natalie found it in a boutique that required an appointment and emotional readiness. Real silk. Hand-finished seams. It flowed like a whisper. It cost enough to make her hesitate. Brooke didn't. You only get one wedding day. Go big. Interesting choice of encouragement. After purchasing it, Brooke offered to store the gown at her apartment. Safer there. No chance Ethan sees it. That was the first subtle misstep. Why did she need possession of the dress? But Natalie trusted her. Because best friends don't plot. Right? Weeks passed, and Brooke's comments started shifting. "Wow, must be nice to afford that. You really leveled up. Ethan's doing well for himself." There it was. Not admiration. Comparison. Envy rarely announces itself. It jokes its way in. At the bachelorette party, Brooke drank more than usual. Her toast started warm. It ended sharp. To Natalie, who finally upgraded her life. Upgraded. Like friendships were outdated devices. The room laughed. Natalie laughed too. But something sat wrong in her chest. 3 days before the wedding, they gathered for the final fitting. Brooke unzipped the garment bag with dramatic flair. Natalie stepped into the gown. Immediately, she froze. The fabric scratched. The lining felt stiff. The zipper resisted like it was protesting. In the mirror, it looked similar. From a distance. Up close, it was an imitation. The inner label was gone. The serial stitching she remembered? Missing. "Natalie, you're nervous." "It's just pre-wedding anxiety," Brooke said lightly. "Ah, yes." Gaslighting with a soft tone. Natalie drove straight to the boutique. The consultant didn't hesitate. "This isn't our work." Cold confirmation. The real dress had been replaced, and only one person had access. That night, Natalie confronted Brooke. No screaming. Just evidence. Brooke didn't deny it. She reframed it. "You changed. You left me behind." There it was. The alter ego. When someone interprets your growth as abandonment. Brooke admitted she had ordered a replica weeks earlier. Swapped it quietly. Sold the real gown online. And yes, kept the money. But this wasn't just financial. It was symbolic. She didn't want Natalie glowing. Because if Natalie shined too brightly, Brooke felt dim. My friends, what kind of best friend competes with your happiness? What kind of insecurity plans something like that? Natalie threatened legal action. The buyer returned the original gown partially altered. Emergency tailoring saved the day. The wedding happened. It was beautiful. But the maid of honor seat? Empty. And then Natalie did what modern heartbreak demands. She posted anonymously under AITA, "Am I the asshole?" asking if she was wrong for cutting Brooke off permanently. The internet responded fast. NTA. That's premeditated. She's been resentful for years. She didn't want your dress. She wanted your spotlight. That one hit. But Harris, what doesn't go viral? Natalie mourned. Not the dress. The friendship. Because losing a best friend is like a breakup without closure. No public sympathy. Just quiet grief. If you've made it this far, support with a like, because this part matters. Brooke didn't disappear. She pivoted. Posted vague quotes online. Not everyone values loyalty. Success changes people. She tried reshaping the narrative. Because when you lose control of reality, you try to control perception. But here's the twist. A mutual friend revealed screenshots where Brooke admitted to planning the swap. Evidence changes everything. Brooke panicked. And in a final desperate move, she sent Ethan a long message implying Natalie was unstable. Trying to plant doubt in a brand new marriage. That's not jealousy. That's escalation. Ethan responded once. Do not contact us again. Block. Silence. End. Natalie began therapy. And her therapist said something profound. She didn't want your dress. She wanted your position. That reframed everything. This wasn't about silk. It was about status. About being the one who felt behind. Months later, Brooke sent a long apology email. Carefully worded. Therapy language sprinkled in. I was in a dark place. But nowhere did she say, I wanted to hurt you. Natalie never replied. Because sometimes the most powerful response is absence. A year later, Brooke tried one final approach. She mailed a book about forgiveness. Highlighted passages. A sticky note that read, when you're ready. Manipulation, disguised as growth. Natalie returned it unopened. And that, my friends, was the real ending. No revenge. No dramatic showdown. Just boundaries. So, tell me, would you have forgiven her? Would you have pressed charges? Would you have exposed her publicly? Or would you choose silence like Natalie did? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Not everyone who stands beside you is rooting for you. Some are measuring you, comparing you, waiting for you to stumble. Drop your thoughts in the comments, my friends. I need to know what you do. And remember, sometimes the person adjusting your veil is the same one who tried to replace it. My FR. Did. Oh. You know I never leave you with a polished version when there's still emotional wreckage under the. Because yes, the wedding happened. Yes. Y. But betrayal like this doesn't evaporate. It. And this is where it gets. 6 months after the wedding, Natalie thought she was healed. Therapy was helping. Life F. Then a mutual acquaintance, the kind that survives in every social circle, like a neutral Switzerland, sent Natalie a screenshot. It was Brooke, on a podcast, talking about toxic friendships. Oh, we've escalated. Brooke didn't name Natalie, but she didn't need to. She described a friend who became obsessed with status. A bridezilla who valued a dress over a decade of loyalty. She said she had made one mistake and was punished for it. One mistake. My friends. Ordering a replica, swapping it intentionally, selling the original, lying about it, gaslighting her, and ATT. That's not one mistake. That's a strategy. Natalie listened to the full episode. Every word. Calmly. And this is where the psychology gets fascinating. Brooke wasn't angry anymore. She was rewriting. When someone cannot live with being the villain in their own story, they edit the script. They soften the crime. They inflate the grievance. They reposition themselves as misunderstood. Classic ego defense. But here's the part no one expected. The podcast host asked Brooke a simple question. Why did you really do it? And Brooke hesitated. Not dramatically. Just enough. Then she said, because she was leaving me. There it was. Not the marriage. Not the dress. Abandonment. In Brooke's mind, Natalie's growth equaled rejection. And instead of communicating insecurity like a healthy adult, she orchestrated humiliation. That's the anatomy of what I call alter envy. It's not about the event. It's about perceived displacement. Now tell me, how many friendships survive only while both people remain equally stuck? Natalie didn't respond publicly. Again, no clapback, no exposure threat, no legal threat, just distance. And that silence did something unexpected. It removed Brooke's audience. Because drama requires reaction. Without it, it starves. A year passed. And then the final ripple surfaced. Brooke got engaged. Yes. Life loves irony. And guess what happened? Her maid of honor backed out 3 weeks before the wedding. Not sabotage. Not theft. Just withdrawal. But Brooke spiraled publicly, crying online about betrayal. And suddenly people remembered. Because karma doesn't always strike dramatically. Sometimes it mirrors. Natalie watched from afar. No satisfaction. Just clarity. She realized something powerful. Brooke didn't hate her. Brooke hated the version of herself she felt stuck with. And Natalie's happiness forced comparison. Comparison bred resentment. Resentment bred action. Action destroyed the friendship. Not because of a dress, but because of unspoken insecurity left to rot. So now I'll ask you something deeper, my friends. Have you ever had a friend who celebrated you, but with a flicker in their eyes? Have you ignored small comments because confronting them felt too dramatic? Have you ever confused history with loyalty? Because sometimes the person who's been there the longest is also the one who's been quietly competing. Natalie moved forward. Stronger boundaries. Smaller circle. No shared passwords. No blind trust. Not paranoid. Just aware. And that more than revenge is growth. So now tell me, if someone tried to rewrite your story after betraying you, would you stay silent? Would you correct the record? Would you forgive? Or would you let them live in the narrative they need to survive? Drop your thoughts below, my friends. Because the real drama isn't in the dress. It's in the fragile ego that couldn't stand watching someone else glow. And remember, sometimes the loudest applause hides the sharpest envy. You thought we were done? Oh no. Because when envy isn't healed, it doesn't disappear. It mutates. And what happened next wasn't loud. It was subtle, which, honestly, is always more dangerous. 2 years passed. Natalie and Ethan were solid. Not the performative social media kind of solid, the quiet, boring, emotionally stable kind. The kind Brooke used to roll her eyes at. Natalie had rebuilt her circle. Smaller. Tighter. Safer. She no longer confused history with intimacy. Then one evening, random Tuesday energy, Natalie received a message request. Not from Brooke. From someone Natalie didn't recognize. A woman named Claire. The message was short. Hi. This might be awkward, but I think you should know something about Brooke. Pause. Because when a stranger opens with that sentence, you either block immediately or you make tea. Natalie made tea. Claire explained she had recently ended a friendship with Brooke. And during one heated argument, Brooke brought up the wedding dress incident. Except the version Brooke told was different again. This time, she said she never intended for Natalie to find out. She just wanted her to feel small for once. Read that again. Not a prank. Not a lapse in judgment. A goal. To make her feel small. My friends, that's not impulsive jealousy. That's emotional punishment. Claire went further. She said Brooke admitted something chilling. She always thought Natalie believed she was better than her. Always. Not just during the engagement. Always. Let's rewind for a second. Middle school sleepovers. College applications. Career milestones. Engagement announcement. Every achievement Natalie experienced, Brooke filtered through one lens. Comparison. And comparison is a breeding ground for resentment when self-worth is fragile. Natalie didn't respond to Claire immediately. She just sat there. Because this wasn't new information. It was confirmation. There's a difference. Confirmation brings closure in a way apologies never can. Now here's where it gets psychologically layered. Claire also revealed that Brooke had a pattern. She had distanced herself from multiple friends during major life milestones. Promotions. pregnancies.
engagement,
And each time, the narrative was the same. They changed. But what if they didn't change? What if they just evolved? And Brooke experienced their evolution as abandonment. There's a concept in psychology called relational identity dependency. It's when someone anchors their sense of self in being needed. If you grow independent, they feel erased. Brooke wasn't jealous of the dress. She was threatened by Natalie not needing her anymore. The dress swap? A symbolic attempt to regain control. If she could disrupt the wedding, she could disrupt the shift. But erase the irony. Natalie never planned to leave Brooke behind. She just grew. And growth isn't betrayal. But to someone stuck, it feels like it. Claire asked Natalie one final question in her message. Do you ever regret cutting her off? Natalie thought about it. Not the version of Brooke she lost, but the version she thought she had. And that's the heartbreak. You don't grieve who someone was. You grieve who you believed they were. Natalie replied,
no.
I regret not seeing it sooner. And that response? That's evolution. Now let's talk about Brooke one last time. 3 months after Claire's message, Brooke's engagement quietly dissolved. No dramatic announcement. No public explanation. Just vanished photos. And whispers. Apparently, according to mutual circles, Brooke accused her fiancé of outgrowing her. There it is again. Outgrowing. It wasn't about Natalie. It was about anyone who moved forward. And here's the final psychological truth bomb, my friends. When someone hasn't reconciled their own insecurities, your success feels like a spotlight on their stagnation. So they dim you.
Or try to.
Natalie didn't feel vindicated. She felt sad. Because Brooke wasn't evil. She was deeply insecure and unwilling to confront it. But insecurity unmanaged becomes destruction. So tell me something honestly. Have you ever downplayed your happiness to protect someone else's ego? Have you ever minimized your success so a friend wouldn't feel threatened? Have you mistaken possessiveness for closeness? Because sometimes loyalty isn't tested when you fail. It's tested when you win. Natalie never heard from Brooke again. No more emails. No more books about forgiveness. No more third-party messages. Just silence. And this time, the silence felt different. Not heavy. Not tense. Peaceful. Because closure doesn't come from apology. It comes from clarity. And clarity is realizing. Some people don't clap when you rise. They flinch. So here we are. Full circle. A dress swapped. A friendship exposed. A pattern revealed. And a woman who chose boundaries over nostalgia. Now I need to know, my friends, if someone betrayed you in a calculated way, not impulsively, but intentionally, would you ever let them back in? Or once trust fractures like that, is it permanent? Drop your thoughts below. Because in this house, we analyze the drama, we don't just consume it. And remember, not everyone who stands beside you wants to stand behind you when you win. Sometimes the biggest threat to fragile egos is your glow. I'll see you in the next whisper.